Hey guys, so this is going to be the video where I answer all of the questions that you submitted on my question and answer video. I left the video up for about 2 weeks and then I disabled comments because just so many questions were coming through and I didn't want the video to be really long. But I printed all of your questions out and I haven't done anything at all to prepare for this video because I usually do better when I don't prepare, so there may be a little bit of stumbling around and editing, but you will be getting my true answers, that's for sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and start right in. The first question was, hey Dade, what better surgery technique in your opinion, DI or peri? And then I think they're asking about the sensitivity issues. I think what surgery is better for you is really dependent on your anatomy and what you want from your surgery. Usually people that are larger chested don't have the option to have peri. It's usually just reserved for people with smaller chests, but even with smaller chests, it seems like there's a lot larger chance for poor results with peri. So I don't really know that there's a better choice of surgeries. That's something that you need to discuss with your surgeon and just think about what it is you want from your surgery. A lot of times with peri, the nipples, you can't really move them into a position that is completely male, so they're usually a little too close together and a little bit large. Of course, with DI, you get the scars. Sensitivity-wise, that has a lot to do with your breast tissue. Sometimes breast tissue goes from here to here. You know, if all of that needs to be ripped out, it's going to be a while before your sensitivity comes back. But for the most part, nerves do regenerate. The next question, and I'm sorry if I'm going quickly, I don't want to lose you guys because the video goes really long. The next question is, does your transition cost a lot of money? Is it painful or scary? Whether or not your transition is going to cost a lot of money is really dependent on what you want from your transition. If you just want to be on hormone replacement therapy, then no, your transition is probably not going to be very expensive. But when you start throwing surgeries in there, it definitely starts getting expensive. If you're just happy with top surgery, probably not that expensive. But when you start getting the histo and the lower surgery, so on and so forth, maybe man sculpture, it really starts becoming pricey. I don't know the exact numbers of how much my transition has cost, but I've had pretty much every surgery that can be had, and I would guess I've spent around $120,000. And that's not including travel. So it can be very expensive, but it just depends on what you want from your transition. And then someone said, do something on patience and transitioning. And it is not really a question. It seems like they're wanting maybe a video subject. So I'm just going to leave that one there for now. And maybe I'll do a video on that because that is really a frustrating thing for most of us transitioning. Then the next question, do you consider yourself to be post-transition now? And if so, what does that mean for you? I don't really consider myself post-transition. And I spent some time thinking about why that is. And I think the point at which I feel like there is nothing more I can personally do to attain the exact body I want, I feel like that will be the time when I feel like I am post-transition. I feel like my body is incredibly close to the best it can possibly be for my genetics and situation, but there is a little more sculpting via diet and health that I think I can do. But I'm really close. So I feel like at the point at which I can say, that's it. I'm done trying to change my body shape. That will be the point at which I'm finished with my transition. So, yeah. Okay, and then someone just got right to the point with this question. Very direct. How is your penis doing since your bottom surgery? So I am a year post-op my revision for my bottom surgery, and about a year and a half post-op bottom surgery in general. And my penis is doing great. Love the little fella. I love the big guy. It has completely changed my life and added lots and lots and lots of joy to my life. And it sounds silly that something like a sex organ could just mean so much to you, but it feels right. And I feel like with the surgeon and the surgery technique I chose, I got the best I possibly could from my body. So I'm incredibly happy with my lower surgery and my penis. All right, and I kind of tried to bundle all of these questions by subject, so try to make it a little smoother. The next question was, well, it says, Dade, you know how much I respect and admire you. As a counselor, I wish you would give your thoughts about human sexuality. I kind of thought people would ask me what my favorite color is, something simple like that. This is a huge question. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. My philosophy and thoughts on human sexuality are similar to my thoughts on gender and just people in general. I don't like boxes. I don't like labels. I think sexuality is on a spectrum. I think it's fluid. And I don't necessarily think that once you choose a sexuality, and by choose I don't mean it's a choice, once you declare a sexuality maybe is a better way to say it. I don't feel like once you declare a sexuality, that's it. You are now that for the rest of your life. I think you can be straight and later be gay and later be pan. I feel like people change. Every 7 years, our entire structure has been rebuilt. And it's ridiculous to think that in this one area of our life, we're expected to just stay the same throughout our entire existence. That's just not how it works. So when it comes to sexuality, I feel like as long as no one or nothing is getting hurt, I feel like sexuality should be incredibly open and allowed to change and allowed to morph. And when you do that and how you do that, it shouldn't really be anybody's business. Nobody questions you if you liked barbecue potato chips when you were a kid and now you don't. That's never a big deal. So, why should it be a big deal if, you were straight for 10 years, but then you decided to expand or change your sexual preferences? So I could go on and on about that for a very long time, but I'm not going to. I think you get my idea from that short little monologue. Okay, the next question, and holy moly, I've barely started and I'm already at almost 9 minutes. This might have to be a 2-part video. I hope this isn't boring. The next question, I admire you and your family. I know you're busy. Have you thought about being a mentor for others transitioning and working? And then I'm not sure what the second part of that is. And then, have you and your family had time to take one of your trips? About mentoring, I've done a little bit of mentoring in person with people. I'm not very graceful at it, and it's just been difficult. I feel like I do a lot of online mentoring for people, answering questions, trying to give guidance just via, this is what I've done, this is what I've seen other people do. So I do feel like I spend a lot of time mentoring. I'm wondering if this person is asking specifically about when it comes to transition and doing that while you're at work. And I have done I haven't done any of that because I don't know anyone else that stayed at their job while they transitioned, honestly. And then as for my family taking trips, we take lots of trips, lots of road trips. We usually stay around a 3 or 4 state area, but we also go out of the country now and then. And just in general, Tiffany, she can't stand being in one place too long, so we actually travel quite a bit. The next question. Okay, I know you love to travel, camp, and hike as I do. Music is also huge in my life, and I was wondering what type of music you are into. I wouldn't really say I'm into a type of music. I'm very open when it comes to music, and I don't necessarily just grab one type of music and go with it. Uh, Probably the easiest way to explain my likes is to just give you a screenshot of one of my playlists. I feel like that will show you will be the best representation of what I like. I listen to all sorts of types of music across all time periods, and it's changing constantly. Um, Next question. Have you ever been randomly recognized and approached by a fellow YouTuber while in public? If so, how did you react? If not, how do you think you would react? I have, in fact, been recognized in public by fellow YouTubers and just subscribers, and I just am not particularly eloquent in those situations. Um, I think I've mentioned before that I'm not really a social superstar, and that I do better on these videos than I do in real life. And so when I'm taken by surprise in a social situation, um, particularly when I'm not by myself and I'm trying to maneuver other things going on in my group, I just don't react well. And it's not like I fly off the handle. I don't know. I'm in a stupor, or I come off being cold. I don't know. I come off in a variety of ways I would rather not come off. Um, so to any of you poor people that have had to randomly meet me in public when I wasn't expecting it, I'm very sorry, and I'm actually a nice guy. So there's that. Next question. I have several questions. I saw before and after you were very and are very physically fit. What type of exercise regime do you do, and healthy eating do you do? So I mentioned this. I don't remember if I mentioned it already or I'm going to mention it because I'm actually interjecting these questions in hours past the rest. But I don't really have a regime. I get to the gym as often as I can, and when I'm there, I lift as heavy as I can. I also just do whatever I can to stay really active. I'm not going to say more about that because I went into it more detail in a different part of this video. How hard was it to decide not to have your own biological children, and are you thinking of any more since having Zane? And did you go for a donor who resembles you? This is a hard question. At the time when I had my hysterectomy and I didn't save my eggs, it wasn't a difficult decision at the time, because I was on a time frame. First of all, I needed to get this hysterectomy because I already had my lower surgery scheduled, and I just needed to get it out. I wasn't in a place where I felt good about undergoing the procedure to get the eggs out. I felt like that would be invasive to my body in ways that I didn't feel comfortable with my body. And then also, I wasn't in a good place self-esteem wise. And I just kind of felt like, who the hell cares if my DNA doesn't go on? I felt so low about myself that I didn't feel like preserving me was worthwhile. And I didn't have anybody there realizing that was going on to check me on that. Because now that years have passed and things have changed, the fact that many people very close to me in my life have not thought I was worthwhile does not actually equate to me not being worthwhile. And so I'm now at that place, but I'm also now at the place where there is no chance of me ever having biological children. So there is, there definitely is a regret there. I would definitely really consider hard not saving your eggs. And for you partners out there, try to really talk with your guy about it, because there may be things going on, deeper things that you don't realize, leading him to not want to save his eggs, or there may not. It's definitely something that merits some discussion. When picking out the donor for Zane, I absolutely picked out one that seemed similar to me. In fact, he even has my birth year. He has similar physical characteristics, similar leanings towards engineering and mechanical aptitude. So yeah, I absolutely did. And I don't know, it seems like a natural thing someone would do. And then, just on that same line, with me not being able to have biological children, in no way, shape, or form does that take away from my feeling of being Zane's father and wanting to do the best I possibly can for her, and how incredibly proud I am of her. It's just two different animals, and one doesn't take away from the other. The last part of that question: how did you come out to Tiffany as being transgender, and how did you support Tiffany through this? Coming out to Tiffany as trans was really a really crappy situation. I tried it on a couple different times. I tried it, and she flew off the handle. She wasn't ready for it. I was pretty direct about it. And finally, I just, during one of these occasions, came out and said, I don't think I can go on without transitioning. And so I came out to her via a series of really difficult discussions, where she really, had to do a lot of soul searching. And the whole process, from the time I came out to her till the time it seemed like we would be okay, was at least a couple years. And how I've supported her through this, the biggest thing I have done to support Tiffany through my transition is to show empathy. And empathy is when you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, emotionally, mentally, put yourself in their circumstances, and try to understand what they could be feeling from their perspective. And by doing that, it really enables you to honor and validate their situation, their emotions, their reactions. And when you can see where their reactions are coming from, it's easier to maneuver through those. So, and then the other way I support Tiffany through my transition is just, the normal way partners support each other is, transition was something I really wanted to do and change, and there's been things that Tiffany has really wanted to do and change. And, that's part of being together. You support each other through that, just in a very general yet all-encompassing way. You just continue to choose each other through each other's decisions. Next question. Do you read every comment, and who is your favorite YouTuber? I sure try to read every comment and message, and I feel like I do. But sometimes comments and messages get lost somewhere in YouTube land, and I just don't know where that place is. But every comment I see and message I see, I do read and respond to a great many of them. My favorite YouTuber, that is a difficult one, because when I started transitioning, I was following a whole bunch of people that were all transitioning a little bit before or a little bit after me, and they've all stopped making videos, almost all of them. The one person of all the people I have followed, though, that stands out the most to me is a YouTuber called Your Pal Wes, and he's a little bit ahead of me, and he doesn't make very many videos anymore, but I've always just been really attracted to his videos because he has such a kind, empathetic way about him, and I really enjoy his mannerisms, and uh, he just seems like an all-around good guy, the type of guy that you would feel good being friends with. So I would have to definitely say Your Pal Wes is my favorite YouTuber, and I'll put a little link up for you guys if you want to go check out his channel. Next question, 3 questions. With trans-related surgeries being so expensive, why did you not get health insurance that covered your trans-related surgeries? So just stopping with that one, I don't think anyone would choose to pay out of pocket for their surgeries if there was an option to not pay out of pocket. Like I mentioned, I've probably spent $120,000 on my transition, where in the state I live in at the time I was getting surgeries, there was no option for my transition to be covered by insurance. We have private insurance, and there are no private insurance companies, or there were at the time, I haven't checked lately, that covered transition-related surgeries. So despite months of hours of research, I had no choice but to pay for my own surgeries or not get the surgeries. So the second part of the question, through your transition, how was your experience going from interacting with other males as a male versus a female? There definitely has been a change. It seems like as a male, you get automatic respect. Suddenly you're funny. Everything's a big laugh and a slap on the back. You're not involved in the inside jokes against people. There definitely is, some changes. And this question just reminds me of my 3-year on testosterone video where I was talking about social reflections. Would go a lot deeper into that particular question. The last part of the question, I'm an FTM about to hit my 2-year on T, and I'm still waiting for a decent looking beard. What were the stages of your facial hair when it was coming in? So I can answer this question, but everyone is different and their genetics are different. And it's just not something you can control. So for me personally, I started getting a little bit of like neck beard probably within a few months. I didn't have anything that would show at all along my sides or cheeks until probably a year. And from a year to 2 years, it just filled in a little bit, not too much. I still don't have a decent mustache, but honestly, it has been this last year, which is my 3 to almost 4 year mark, that my beard really started coming in. So for my personal beard journey, that is the route it has taken. But there's not really anything you can do to speed up your beard. You just have to wait for it and just see what your body is going to do. I know it's frustrating though, so I definitely acknowledge that. Next question, when did you get your tattoo and why? And then the next part of this, what is your job exactly? I'm going to skip for now because I've got a whole section on what my job is. So I've got 2 tattoos currently. I've got, this little guy. And Tiff and I have matching tattoos of that guy, and it is the Fibonacci spiral. And the reason we got that tattoo, we got it pretty early in our relationship, probably earlier than someone should get a matching tattoo with someone they're dating, because we got it because Tiffany is kind of a hippie, a nature-loving hippie, and I tend to gravitate more towards the scientific end of things. And because the Fibonacci spiral is rooted in both mathematics and nature, we thought it was a perfect representation of us and our relationship, and most importantly, how it could coexist into something beautiful. The other tattoo I have, on the wrong side, this mirror image is tough. I'm not going to take my shirt off, but it's just a large tribal. I don't have a tribal affiliation, which people call me on, and I think, sorry, I'm playing with things here. I don't know, a lot of people think it's lame to get a tribal tattoo nowadays, but I just thought it was the use of negative space in the tattoo was really beautiful. And I also wanted to get more of a skin-toned tattoo with this guy. And when I got the tattoo, it kind of represented a no going back point for me because I got it right after I left my entire life and the religion I was in. And with the religion I was in, there's no tattooing allowed. And so by getting such a large visible tattoo, it kind of represented taking my life into my own hands and really the beginning of adulthood, because after that there was no one there reaching out their hand to help me. So that tattoo, it just represents me and starting my new life. Next question. Where is your favorite place to vacation in the Pacific Northwest? Gosh, it's hard. There are so many beautiful places to vacation around here. My favorite one recently, Tiff and I did a 50-mile backpacking trip along the Rogue River recently, the lower Rogue. And a lot of the time we were just hiking along the canyon, and it was beautiful. Definitely strenuous, but it was a beautiful hike, views of rivers, mountains, valleys, fields, and it spits you out over at the Pacific Ocean. So that stands out in my mind right now about my favorite spot. Next question. I haven't started transitioning yet and have moments of 100% excitement, then complete freakout. Did you have any freakout moments yourself? And if so, how did you work through them? I didn't have any freakout moments. I had moments of just sheer elation. I transitioned a bit later. So when I did, I was so ready to be here. And I kind of had a damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead attitude. I knew a lot of difficulties were coming, but I just didn't freaking care. I was ready for this and I needed it. So with that being said, when I knew a particularly difficult situation was coming up, I would just stay really focused on my goal and focused on what I was going to become from this. And that helped me get through the difficult times. It may help you get through the freak out times. I know it's a huge decision for sure, and some freakouts are merited, absolutely. Oh, I got one more on this page. What is your workout routine besides the physical labor required for your job? Do you have one? I don't really have a physical job at this point. I did at one time. At this point, I spend a lot of time managing people and projects, and a lot of time sitting at my computer working on CAD drawings. So I don't really get a lot of physical activity other than a lot of walking around from my job. As for a routine, as much as I'd like to have a physical routine, I don't. I am so ridiculously busy that I just fit it in wherever I can. So I probably get to the gym to lift 4 or 5 times a week. And I just lift as hard as I can for 20 or 30 minutes, honestly. And that's it. And then a few times a week, I also either go on a cycle ride for an hour or so, or an hour and a half or so hike. So I just try really hard to stay active. On the days where I can't be active, because sometimes that just happens, I'll do things like when I'm watching TV at the end of the night, every commercial, I'll drop and do push-ups until the commercials are over. And you know what? If you watch a few shows, that can really, really add up. So it's less of a routine, my fitness, and more of a lifestyle. I just, wherever I can fit in activity, I do it. Because if I don't, many times it will get missed. All right, on to the next page. I'm definitely going to have to split this into a couple sections for you guys. I'm at, well, you can see, 22 minutes. Next question. We would love to hear more about your career. like maybe a day in the life with your business, and how your coworkers respond to your transition. So my career, I own, and I think this whole page is about my work. So some things may be redundant. So what I do for a living, I co-own an electrical engineering and contracting company, and I have since 2006. Um, when a lot of people hear that I am in the electrical field, they imagine that my job looks a lot like this. In reality, my job really looks a lot more like this. So, at my job, I mentioned it, I spend a lot of time on my computer doing the electrical engineering and project management end of things. I do find myself out in the field doing work now and then, usually with large control panels and PLCs. But for the most part, my employees are out doing the day to day work. And my business partner and I just work really hard to make sure they have everything they need to have a successful project. Um, my coworkers with my transition, like I mentioned, I didn't have the option of leaving my job when I transitioned because I had a company with employees, and the employees have families, and it felt like everyone was depending on me to keep the business going. So I didn't leave. I didn't leave my job. It was really difficult, you know. As a boss, you don't really want to show weakness or share much of your personal life with your employees. There has to be some division. Okay, I'm back. My computer cut out for some reason. But like I was saying, there has to be some sort of separation between you and your employees. And so while there's a sense of mutual respect and camaraderie, sharing my personal life isn't something I usually do. So it was difficult and humbling to have to come to them and say, look at, I'm transitioning now, and then essentially ask them, look, I know this is uncomfortable, but I need you to start using male pronouns. I need you to use this name, so on and so forth. And additionally, because I was having to come out to all of our customers and clientele, uh, and everyone seems to be just chicken to ask the person themselves about what's going on. My employees and business partner had to field a lot of questions about my transition and about me, and that was uncomfortable for me, for my employees to be put in that position, and it was irritating for me with my business partner because he, at that time, was not on board at all. He still, I still wouldn't say he's on board, but he tolerates me, and so it was a frustrating situation to be in. At this point, it's virtually a non-issue, but it probably took 2.5 to 3 years for it to get to that point. Let's see, this next one, where did you go to college, if you did, and what is your current career? I went to college here at Southern Oregon. I studied electronics engineering. I didn't graduate. I got within a class of graduating, but then some very difficult things happened and I never made it back. So I didn't graduate college, but I did graduate a 5-year electrical apprenticeship, which included a lot of schooling. And then my current career, I've already told you I own an electrical contracting company. Next question, this far into your journey, how has the situation at work changed for better or for worse? I believe I answered that question previously. Next question, I've heard you mention that you created a business a while ago and it's something you enjoy. It's not something you enjoy, but it brings financial security. How did you get your business off the ground, and why is it something you're not so keen on? And finally, any tips on starting a business, do's and don'ts? So being an electrical contractor wasn't my first choice. Um, I had a full ride scholarship to OIT, and that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to work more in the electronics field, research and development type thing, but life got in the way, and I needed to make money. So that's why I went into the electrical apprenticeship, because you go to school nights, but you work full time during the day. Uh, so you're able to make money, and that is what my life needed from me. So it's not that my job is terrible. It's just not my first choice. And as for starting my business, how did I get it off the ground? With great difficulty. It's not easy starting a business, especially when there's a lot of startup costs. So I pretty much just lived very poor for about a year. I mean, it was so bad that I was selling my clothes on Craigslist to get my business going. But with a lot of determination and there's some other words I'm thinking of here, but they're a bit profane, so I'm going to leave them out. I managed to acquire some very large contracts and some very large customers, and I've worked really hard to keep those customers happy. And I believe that is why the business is so successful. We really value craftsmanship and job well done, and we take ownership of our work. And because of that, we're never looking for work. The work comes to us. In fact, we don't advertise at all because we generally don't want any more to do. Next question, how has work been? How has using the men's room changed or stayed the same at work in public? So I obviously use the men's room. Up until I had lower surgery, I continued using the I continued using the unisex restroom at work, just because I had already transitioned, but I didn't want to go into the men's room and be in there with my clients or coworkers or whoever, and I didn't want them to see me have to go into the stall to use the bathroom, because I didn't want it to even be on their radar that I didn't have a penis. So until I had lower surgery, I kept using the unisex bathroom. Now that I have lower surgery, I greatly enjoy going into the men's room and whipping out my penis to take a piss in front of people. I love the fact that they're shocked and have no idea how I can do it. And it's just something, I don't know, there's just something that feels right about being able to go in there and pee around a bunch of guys. It just, it feels right. So that definitely has changed, and it's something I really enjoy. Let's see, another one. How is life for you at work and your coworkers? How have they accepted your transition? I think I covered that already. This one, what do you and Tiff do for a living? So you all know lots about me now. Tiffany, before we had Zane, our daughter, she helped to run an alternative school for troubled youth. Once we had Zane, she quit her job, which is something I really respect her for. It's something that we had talked about. We both felt really strongly that one of us should remain at home with the baby full time, at least till she was going to school. It's just the type of parenting we wanted for our child. And Tiff also felt really strongly about breastfeeding. And so since that wasn't an option for me, she opted to stay at home with the baby. So she's been doing that for the last 3 years. Recently, she has, in the meantime, she got her master's degree, and she has recently started up her own coaching and consulting business, which is in its infancy, but she has high hopes for it, and it's starting to take off. So that is what she does. Another question, what do you do for work? I know you have vaguely covered this before, but looking at your beautiful home, it must pay well. I think I've answered all of those. And the last one, what inspired you to become an electrician? Like I mentioned, not my first choice. The inspiration was I needed something to move me forward in a career, and being an electrician paid me as I learned, and as it turned out, it's opened the doors to engineering opportunities that I may not have had otherwise. Because in Oregon, when you have your master's electrical license, you can do electrical engineering. So it's an equivalency there. All right, I think that's all the work-related questions. The next one we have here, someone's very excited to answer or to ask this question. What's your fave animal? My favorite animal is definitely the owl. Owls of all sorts, I love them a lot. And then the next question, if you could identify yourself with any animal, what would it be and why? Same thing, it would be the owl. I just really have a great deal of respect for the owl and their mannerisms. I like that they're nocturnal. I like that they seem to be a symbol of calmness and wisdom, but then also they definitely react when reaction is necessary. So the second part of the question was, I'm starting T this week, and I've read that a trans guy can often have clinical depression problems slightly relieved once they have the correct hormones in their bodies. What's your experience or thoughts on this? I don't know. I know that many depressions are caused from chemical imbalances in your brain. I also know that many depressions are caused from external factors. With that being said, body dysphoria definitely is an external factor that can help to be relieved once you transition. So I would venture to say that some forms of depression definitely could be relieved or partially relieved by transitioning, but not all depression. Depression comes from a lot of different sources. So depending on the source, it could partially be relieved for someone experiencing depression. That would definitely be something to talk with your doctor about. All right, next page. This is a question about dysphoria. My question is about dysphoria. Do you still feel dysphoria? I do, but to a small degree. Like I mentioned early in the video, there are still a few things I'm working on when it comes to my body, and I'm the kind of person that I don't expect more from my body than what is possible for me. I mean, you can't change bone structure, but I do expect my body to look as good as it possibly can for my with my genetics. So I still feel dysphoria about a couple of areas of my body that I'm still working on. Whether or not that will completely go away once I attain what I want to attain, I don't know, because I'm not there. I definitely know that I still look in the mirror and at times see a body very different than what my body looks like. But those are honestly psychological issues that I still battle on and off because I'm not that girl anymore, you know, and it takes a while. It takes a while to be able to see that. So that's something that I'm still working on. But if my dysphoria was a 10 at the beginning of my transition, it's probably now like a 1 or like a 0.75. So it's definitely tolerable at this point. Then another question about dysphoria. Do you still feel it sometimes? And I mean like in that big, awful, mentally jarring sort of way. Maybe it works differently for you than it does for me, but sometimes it hits me and it just takes over everything. I've been on T a little over a year now, so it happens less and less, but sometimes it still happens. I was wondering if that's something you've noticed has gone away, or if it's something you still have to deal with sometimes. I feel like I've answered this question already, but as for just the huge mentally jarring type, I just really empathize with with you on this, because it does. It just hits you like a ton of bricks sometimes, and it changes your entire day. That one glance in the mirror, and it makes you want to just curl up in a ball. But you're a year on testosterone. I'm almost 4 years on testosterone. I've seen huge improvements in that time, and my guess is you will too. All right, next one. This may be too personal for you, but here it goes. Since Tiff was a lesbian before you transitioned, is the sexual attraction still there? Better, worse? Maybe she will be willing to answer this question for you. Tiffany would be willing to answer this question, but she's out of town when I'm making this video, so I will do my best to speak for her, and I think she would be all right with that. So Tiff, I would say Tiffany still does identify as a lesbian, and I think if something were to happen to me and I was out of the picture, she would probably choose a woman over a man. As for sexual attraction, Tiffany and I had such a deeply rooted relationship before I transitioned, and we have so many other areas that we connect with and work with really well, that the sexual attraction hasn't changed from what it was before I transitioned. I would say that has stayed at a relatively consistent level. What has changed is having a baby. That's what really changes your sex life. So I would be more concerned about that, honestly. The next one, this is another one that was for Tiff, but again, she's not here. How is Tiff feeling about the finality of your transition? She once spoke about the loss of her wife, female partner. I don't know if you were married then. I know that is definitely something Tiffany really struggled with. Even now, when we look at old photos, she sometimes gets a sad look in her eye, and that's not something I can take away from her. There is a real loss that she experienced when I decided to transition, and she gets to have that loss. It doesn't mean she doesn't love me or regret staying with me, but that was a very real experience for her. Next question. I think it would be very interesting to hear about how your age has played a role in your transition. Once you started being perceived more as male, I'm sure people thought you were a younger man. That seems to be the case for most of us. Could you talk about your experience with this and how it has affected you in your experiences? So yeah, I definitely, especially early in my transition, looked like a much younger man. I had a baby face even when I was female bodied, and that definitely transferred over into when I transitioned. You don't get the respect an older looking man would get. I found a lot of old ladies are super eager to just put me in my young man place, because I walk around like I'm a 33-year-old, and I talk like it, and I go about my business like it, and so people, I don't know, they feel like I'm putting on airs or something, and like I said, it really with the older ladies, they feel an incentive to put me in my place. So that's been frustrating. But my face is definitely starting to age. I feel like that's from testosterone and from just aging. So it is starting definitely to get better, though I still pretty regularly get carded for my beer. Another one about an older age transition. Hello, love your videos so far, very real and honest. I'm transitioning at a much older age and wonder what your advice would be to trans guys on preparing for their later years. There's pros and cons to transitioning older. This is my opinion. I don't have any fact on it, but I feel like when you transition older, fat redistribution is really a more difficult process. I feel like the fat has just been around longer, and so it's harder to get rid of. From my research, it seems like that's the case. Other than that, it seems like across the board, transitions, are very successful, no matter how old you are. It seems like you still get hairy, your voice still changes, you still build muscle mass. The only difficulty that I've seen is, like I mentioned, it seems like the fat redistribution just takes a lot longer. Um, it can be difficult to transition when you're older, because when you're so established in your life, you can't often just up and leave your life and go transition, which is what most of us would like to do. It would definitely be easier. But when you transition older, like I did, you can't leave your life oftentimes. It's too established. Too many people are counting on you. So it can be a more difficult social road. On the upside, because you're more established, you're probably more established financially, and it's easier to pay for transition. And since so many insurance companies are still not paying for it, it can definitely be helpful to have the financial part covered, or at least have an easier plan to cover it. Next set of questions. Have there been any changes in your personal health that is or could be attributed to taking tea? I read a lot about possible side effects. I want to know if those actually happen. Knowing the answer would really shut down my fears. There is so many scare tactics going around the internet when it comes to transitioning, and how you're going to do this or that to your health, and how it's a big frickin' deal. From my research and from talking with my doctors, there's not really any health risks to taking testosterone and transitioning, as long as you keep your testosterone levels in the correct range, which is the male range for your age group. When it comes to increased health risks with testosterone, you just now trade in the health risks associated with estrogen for the health risks associated with testosterone. So you have a higher chance of having cholesterol and blood pressure problems, but that's pretty much every male worldwide that doesn't watch what they eat and exercise regularly is going to have those problems. So other than that, there is no health risks. And I can't remember what the link was or where it was, but I recently read an article on a long-term study done on hormone replacement therapy for both trans men and trans women, and 0 negative side effects were found for either groups. So don't let the internet scare you, is what I have to say about that. Next one, another health question. In terms of physical problems when you get to aging, like about 55 years old, what do the doctors say you might have problems with because of your transition? The only thing I would need to adjust when I'm up to 55, 60 years old is, just like a cis man, I would need to start lowering my my testosterone levels. Cis men, their testosterone starts to drop off, I think, at 35 or 40, and it continues to decline. So that would be something that I will need to look at when I start to significantly age. If I weren't to do that, I could possibly have a worse chance to have blood pressure problems and heart problems, heart disease, so on and so forth. But like I said, no more than a cis man. We're getting close to the end here. Apologize for the sniffles. I'm fighting off my, seems like 5th cold of the season. So what is the best part of being a father, and would you like to have more children? Okay, so this is a set of questions all about Zane. So while I answer these questions in chatter, I'm just going to start showing some photos of Zane and our family in general. I don't think I've shared anything about her since her 1-year birthday, and her 3-year birthday is next week. So just put these photos up for you to watch. Okay, so I'll just read that question again. What is the best part of being a father, and would you like to have more children? The best part of being a father, that's hard. It's definitely hard being a father, but having a little human look up to you and just think you can do no wrong, and to be relying on you so completely to teach them, to instruct them, to play with them. It's just such a unique privilege, such a unique responsibility. And to hear your little child's voice when they tell you that they love you and to have them call you daddy is just, it's just something I would recommend experiencing for sure. It's definitely awesome. The next question, are there any plans for more children in the future? You know, that's a difficult question to answer because when you're trans, there has to be so much intention behind having more children. It's not like you can just be like, oh, whoops, didn't mean for that to happen, or oh, I didn't know you could get pregnant in a hot tub, or things like that. You have to really, really make a decision to have a baby. And when you already have one baby, that can be hard because some days are so difficult that you would never, ever choose to have a kid again, or I'm sorry, another kid. But then other days are so spectacularly magnificent that you wish you had 12 more. So, depending on the day you ask me, I would say definitely yes or definitely no. But Tiffany and I are actually in the process of trying to expand our family. We're not sure exactly how that's going to happen. So, there are plans for more children in the future, and we'll just have to see how that all works out. What's going on with Zane these days, and what's family life like? Zane is awesome. She is brilliant, strong, talented, really cute. She just started preschool, and she's doing really great at that. She's as far pegged on the extrovert scale as a person can be. She's pretty much a clone of her mother, definitely. She's in swim classes, and she's doing really well with that. I don't know, she's very verbal. She talks constantly. She was potty trained at 1. She just is ahead, it seems like. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm her father. She definitely seems like she's going to be a type A. She needs everything to be just so. She's not afraid to take charge. Family life is really good. It's Tiffany, myself, Zane, and our dog Roscoe. We spend a lot of time together. My work schedule is really flexible, so I'm able to spend a lot of time home with the family, and we just have a good time. We nest. We try to improve our house and our yard. We go on trips all the time. We hike. We camp. Family life is very, very good. Next question is about Zane. I'd like to know how you feel about being a father and how you intend to tell your kid your journey to become the man you've become now. I just feel so incredibly honored to be a father and to have the opportunity to help guide and mold a young person's life. And I work really, really hard at being a good father. That's not something I got to experience as a child. So I don't have a role model to pull from. So everything I do, I think about, and I'm very contemplative about how I want to act and how I want to treat her. And especially because she's a girl, and there are, definitely societal forces working against her. And so I work very, very hard to be the type of man that supports the fact that she is a strong woman already. You can already see it in her makeup and her demeanor. She is going to be a strong, tenacious woman, and she will do great things. And I work very hard to be the type of father that can nurture that in her. As for telling her about my journey, she already knows. She is so inquisitive and so questioning and listens to everything. Me being trans and us talking about transgender things, it's something that comes up in our conversation often, and she's always around. So, it didn't take long before she asked, what is transgender? So, it was a simple conversation. What's transgender? We told her the difference between transgender and cisgender. And then, of course, the next logical thing is, are you transgender? Are you cisgender? So I said, yeah, I'm transgender. I was born with a female body, and when I grew up, I changed it to a boy body, and that's how I feel good. It wasn't startling. She wasn't, she's not scarred from it. She understood. We explained it to her in age-appropriate terms. And it's just going to be an ongoing discussion as she ages. We don't feel good about hiding anything from her. She is part of our family. She's not someone that is going to be on the outskirts of the family. So she knows I'm trans. She knows that in our family we have a mom, a dad, and a donor. She's very well aware of that. So it's so far so good. I'm sure it'll get more difficult as there's more questions on a deeper level. But for now, we're just taking it one day at a time. And if she asks, we tell her. Next thing, what was it like to tell your in-laws about your transition, and were they accepting? So I made a video on this, and it was nerve-wracking to tell my in-laws about my transition for a lot of reasons. But I did it, and they were very, very accepting up front. They understood. They actually knew the term transgender. They said that they would support us in what we did, and they have. The difficult part was that it probably took 2 years at least for them to start consistently using the correct pronouns for me. And even now, there's slip-ups sometimes. And that's been something that's been really difficult for me because it's hard for me to understand slip-ups happening for that long. It is. But I do my best to let it go, and I know it's not something they're doing on purpose, but nevertheless, it just grates at me. But overall, Tiffany is really blessed. She has really great parents. They're very, very supportive of her, and because they're very, very supportive of her, they're very supportive of me. And that's been something that has been very valuable to Tiff and I throughout this process. This question, how did you raise your own baby? I'm not really sure. I'm not positive what you're asking here. So I'm wondering if you're wanting to know how we had a baby. We used donor sperm, and my wife we had her inseminated. So that's how we had our baby. The next question about Zane, can you tell us how she's doing? I covered that already. She's doing great. She's awesome. Alrighty, so that is the end of the page about Zane. Alright, last page of questions here. How did you become socially accepted by friends or family? My family's not in the picture, so that's a non-issue. It's still a work in progress being socially accepted by all of Tiff's family. There's a lot of them, and it just is going to be a long process. The friends that I am close with, it seems like it was a pretty, they're a very open, diverse, accepting crowd. And so it was very easy for them to socially accept me, at least from all intents and purposes. That's what it seems. So that was really a non-issue in my life. Socially, my work socialization was more of an issue, and that was just the type of thing that I just had to deal with for years until it finally blew over. Next question, I'd love some tips on how to fit into male culture. At almost 8 months on T and passing more now, I am constantly watching men and trying to figure out how to fit into the male world. I'm sure it will happen, but I'd like to minimize the mistakes. Thanks for your videos. This is a difficult question for me to answer. I don't feel like I've done anything specifically or made a concerted effort to fit into the male world. I was always in the male world, and I always acted very masculine, and socially, the places I put myself were always male places. They just didn't accept me then. Now that I, look male, I'm accepted. So I'm not really sure how to answer that. If it's more of socially how to look more male, there's a lot of generalizations I can make. For instance, generally men take up more space than women. You'll see them sitting with their arms out and their legs open and just not caring at all that people are wanting to sit down. Men tend to be less expressive with their face and their hands. Like oftentimes men aren't, making big gestures, with their hands, or if they do, it's like one big all-encompassing gesture. Men tend to avoid long, deep eye contact with people, and particularly other men. For instance, at the gym, I could be there for an hour, hour and a half and not make eye contact with one other guy there. It's just not, it's not necessary. It's just not something that needs to be done. Men, when they walk, tend to walk more with their upper body and less with their lower body. Things like that. And just when it comes to speaking to other men and fitting in, they tend to be happier with shorter, more concise answers. There's less, I feel this way or I feel that way, and a lot more, I think this or I think that. And, these aren't necessarily qualities that a modern man would want to emulate, to tell you the truth, but it seems to be how, men act now. So I don't know if that helps you out at all or not. Hopefully it did. The last question. What is your way or methods or approaches, if it actually applies to your life, to socializing with particularly groups of cis men in personal and work spaces? Again, I don't have a method or approach. That part came very naturally to me. What was unnatural for me was when I was dressed up like a girl, looking like a girl, and trying to fit into female spaces. That just, it didn't work for me. I couldn't do it. I didn't know what to say or how to act. The more subdued, solitude, slow talking, big space taking up way that men have always came a lot more naturally to me. So that's that. Now I know there were some more questions in here, and I feel like I missed some somehow. So let me just page through these, but just for a minute here. Oh, answered that. I feel like there were some questions on my biological family here that I missed. Super interesting to you guys as I page through these papers. Okay. I don't know how I missed this page, but here it is. Hopefully I only missed that. So, do you have any contact with anyone in your family? I've heard you talk about some of your family not being supportive. I will gladly adopt you. Thank you. Wait, how old are you? Maybe I can be your older sister. I always like seeing what you guys are up to. I was talking with my cold. I'm going to lose my voice after this. Up until probably 6 months ago, I had zero contact with my bio family, and that probably had been for 7 or 8 years, something like that. Uh, I've never come out to them as trans. Uh, but about 6 months ago, I came across my niece and nephew online, and so we've had a bit of correspondence, which has been really nice. It's nice to have them back in my life, even in this limited manner. And then also, around the same time period, I had contact with my older sister. And the reason why I was able to have contact is because she's no longer in the religion that is the reason why my entire family disowned me. So it's been really nice having a little bit of contact with my sister. It's still, on a pretty limited basis, but it's a start and it's something. I've had zero contact with my mother. She's very very devout at what she's doing, and I honestly doubt I will ever see her again. Just from what I've heard from my sister, my mother's words are that she thinks I'm disgusting. So I take it she's heard through the grapevine that I have transitioned. So, it is what it is. At this point, it's not a feeling of loss that I have. It's a feeling of pity. I feel bad for her at this point to be involved in a religion that would make you so fiercely disown your own flesh and blood, because at some level that must be painful for her as well. So a little bit of contact, but not much for most people. And then the other one along the same line, since the early videos, I've wondered if you were still out of contact with your bio family. Have they seen the amazing man you've become, or your beautiful wife and daughter? Thank you for all that. That's very kind of you. And no, they, for the most part, have not seen me and have no idea what's going on in my life. Yeah, no. So, all right. Well, that is the end of those questions. I think this video is going to be like an hour long, so I've got a lot of editing I'm going to do for you guys. And other than that, thanks for all your questions. They were awesome. I hope I answered them well. And if more questions come up from this, just comment on the video and I'll answer them right there. All right. Thanks for watching.